Hi, this is Joe from Rumschool Games, and today we're going to look at Decorum from Floodgate Games. It's a 2 to 4 player cooperative game where you are all housemates moving in together for the first time. And you all have ideas for how you'd like that house to be decorated and painted, but you don't want to come out and tell everybody that. No, you don't want to step on anybody's toes. So you make a subtle change here, you paint a room over there, and just see how your housemates react. Maybe they like it, maybe they don't. They'll let you know for sure, and then they'll make a change of their own that would help things out for them. So how does this game work? Well, I won't go over all the rules. There's a rule video from the publisher, and I'll have a link to that down below. Instead, we're going to go through their demo. The publisher has a demo for a 2-player game. I won't spoil any of the contents that are in your copy of the game, and we'll get to see how the players interact going back and forth. Your game will have a campaign of 20 2-player games that are played over a story arc. Some of the characters come back and are moving in together again. And the games get progressively more difficult as you go. There's also separate components for a 3 to 4 player game. And in that version, there's some modifications made to the rules for how you communicate back and forth with other players. But for today, we'll look at the 2-player game. So let's go over the table. Let's go through that demo, see how that plays out, and then I'll meet you back here to give you my final thoughts. So here we are with our game set up for our 2-player demo. To go over some of these components, on the right side of the screen here, we have all of the tokens that we use during the game. Now these are upgraded acrylic pieces. The base game comes with cardboard punch outs for each of these items, and in this case we've upgraded these to acrylic. It doesn't make any difference in the gameplay. The top we have paint colors. These are the colors of the rooms. And then next we have wall hangings, followed by curios and lamps. And these all come in various styles. So this column is modern style, and this column is antique style, followed by the retro style and an unusual style. And you can identify the styles by the icon at the bottom. So the yellow wall hanging has a little diamond at the bottom, which would line up with the diamond here for unusual. When you look at the wall hangings, they do have different art. In fact, all the pieces have different art. The actual art on them does not represent a difference in the game. Just the fact that they are yellow and unusual is the only real difference. The other artwork difference just makes it a little more visually appealing. It is worth noting, as I talk about the yellow, that there is no yellow modern item. And in the antique column, there's no red antique item. Every color is not represented in each style, and that will come into play in some of the more difficult scenarios as you progress through the campaign of the game. On the left side, we have our house that we're moving into, and this is where all of our actions will take place. And in our house, we have a bathroom, a bedroom, a living room, and a kitchen. And in each room, you will have a spot for a paint color token, and each room must be painted. You can't leave that particular space blank. Each room does have a place for a curio, a wall hanging, and a lamp. Now those can be left blank. In fact, you don't have to have any items in a room. If that might meet your criteria, that's perfectly acceptable to have a room with no decorations. But you can have at most one of each kind of decoration in a room: one curio, one wall hanging, and one lamp. And in fact, down here we have one of each in the room. The top of the board is the round tracker, and you'd place this starting piece on round 1. You'd progress it through all rounds down to 15, and then reset it back up here to track rounds 16 through 30. And you'll also have these heart-to-heart tokens. Those represent discussions that you have with your roommate. And in the game, you will actually reveal one of your secret criteria to your partner to let them know what you've really been trying to work on. Usually it's one of the ones that's been frustrating you the most, or maybe it's one of the trickier ones to understand, so you can both work through it. When you have that discussion in the game and on in this part of the house, it will let you know when you have them. You have a heart-to-heart at round 15, and then you have another heart-to-heart, turns out, in round 20 and 25. When you have those, you flip the token over the X side to show that that's been performed. And that really only comes into play in scoring. Feel free to use those as early as you can to help solve the puzzle. When you open the envelope for each game, you'll have 3 cards inside. You'll have a setup and a player 1 and a player 2 card. Don't look at those player 1 and player 2 cards yet. Let's just look at the setup, and that will have a backstory for what's going on with your characters. And our demo is rather simple. What's the best way to know if living together is right for the two of you? Staying overnight and rearranging their stuff should do the trick, and you can have fun with that a little bit with your characters. It's not always as straightforward as that, but it does give just a little flavor text to the game you're playing here. And then it will show the 4 rooms and how each room should be set up at the beginning. So for this one, we need a bathroom to be painted yellow with a blue wall hanging, and we have that there. A red bedroom with a blue curio. Our living room has everything in it. It's a blue room with a red curio, a yellow lamp, and a green wall hanging. And then our kitchen, yellow, yellow, yellow. We have yellow paint, yellow picture, and a yellow curio. And how does that work out with our starting conditions? Well, then you'd pass your starting conditions, keeping them secret to each player. Now, for our example, we will be player 1, and our conditions are that the house must contain exactly 2 curios. And to start, well, we have 3, so we're going to need to do something about that. Then we have the downstairs must contain more objects than the upstairs. Well, we have 5 objects downstairs and 2 upstairs, so we're good there so far. Hopefully our roommate doesn't mess that up for us. Our third one, the house must not contain any green objects, and it does note that the wall color does not count as an object. These player cards are rather good at explaining some specific criteria, some specific things that you might have maybe considered looking up in the rule book, and they'll have it right there. So you can't have any green objects, but it is okay if a room is painted green. Now, we do have a green object already, and we're going to have to see if we can get that out of the house without our roommate minding. And last, probably the trickiest one for us here, rooms that contain 1 or fewer objects must be painted red. So far, we have 2 rooms with 1 or fewer objects, and 1 of them is painted red. So in order to get this room to pass the criteria, we either need to paint that red, or we need to add an object, or we could take it away and have no objects. But as it stands now, we don't like how that room is decorated. So we're going to have to do something about that. So now we're ready to play our game. In a game of hidden information amongst the players, it's hard to do a demo as just one person. So my wife and I went ahead and played the game and wrote down all the moves, so I know how each player is going to act in this game. And they are represented by player 1, the shark, that will be us, and player 2, the octopus. These guys don't have names yet, and that's where I need your help. Give me some names for these guys in the comments. They're probably going to make an appearance in some future videos, and it'd be nice to call them by something else other than shark and octopus. As player 1, we get to make the first action in round 1, and we have several choices for those actions. We can add an item to a room where there's a blank space. So if I wanted to add a wall hanging to a room, simply take one from the supply and add it to the room. The other choice I have is I could just take an item out of the room and move it to the supply. Any item can be done, can be moved that way. The third change you can make to an item is to change the color. You can simply take one item of one color and replace it with the item of the different color. That is your third option with items. I'll turn that back to the blue from the starting setup. And the last thing you can do is paint a room. Now you can't rip paint off the wall, so paint can't just be left blank. If you wanted to paint a room, you would replace it with the paint token of your new color and return the paint token to the supply. One of the things you cannot do is move an item. So I couldn't just simply take this curio from the bedroom and move it to the bathroom. That would take 2 actions, one action for removing the item from the bedroom and a second one in a future round to add one to the bathroom. or add one to the bathroom first and take it away from the bedroom later. But I can't, in one action, move an item from one room to another. I can only add items, remove items, change the color/style of an item, or change the paint color. The last thing I could do is pass. That is a valid option, is to not make any move and just pass. You would only ever do that if all of your conditions were met. And on that note, if at any point in the game, whether it's after you've made a move or after any other player has made a move, if all of your conditions are met, let your housemates know right away that you are fulfilled. Everything meets all of your conditions. When both of you meet all of your conditions at the same time, then you've won the game. So if we go back to our shark, player one, first thing we're going to do, I decided, the house has to have exactly 2 curios. Why not start at the top? We have 3. Let's get rid of one of them. So I simply remove the red curio from the living room, and I look to my roommate and I say, how's that? And our octopus says, hey, they're happy about that. Nice. That's good. Good. We didn't ruffle any feathers yet, so to speak. I don't think we have feathers, but in any case, Octopus would get to go for their round 1, and they decided to remove a curio from the kitchen. I guess they figured, if we're getting rid of curios, why not keep on going? And they turned to us, and how do we feel about that? No, we don't like that at all. Remember, we need 2 curios, and all of a sudden, in round 1, we've already gone from 3 all the way down to 1. Well, we'll go to round 2 and take our next action. And I decided to leave the curios alone for a bit. That seemed to cause a lot of concern. And I decided to change the picture in the living room from green to red. Because remember, we don't want any green items. And how did the octopus feel about that? Hey, they liked it. Nice. I'm glad they like my taste in art, I guess. So Octopus gets to do an action here, and they went and found that green item from the green wall hanging from the trash and put it right back in the bathroom. Well, how do we feel about that? No, we did not like that green painting, remember? So we say, no, we don't like that. All right, let's try again. Round 3. Well, I'm going to address the curio issue. I'm going to go back to that, and I'm going to add a blue curio to the bathroom and see how that goes. Now we have back to 2 curios in the house, and our roommate says, not happy. Oh man, they're not happy about that. Well, they're not happy. Let's see what they do about it. And turns out they take the bedroom curio and change it from blue to red. And then, before they ask us how we feel about that, they let us know they're fulfilled already. Wow. Well, how do we feel about that? Okay, we say we're okay. Meh, you could say. It didn't really make anything worse for us. We still have 2 curios in the house. It didn't make anything better for us, but it didn't make anything worse. So we say it's okay. All right, on to round 4. Well, we need to do something, and we don't like that green picture in the bathroom. So in this case, we decide to change it from green to yellow. And we look to our roommate and say, how do you like that? No, they didn't like that. Okay, didn't like that at all. So they got to do something, and they decide to paint. They're going to break out some paint, and they're going to paint the kitchen green. Okay, painting the kitchen green. How do we feel about that? We say we're okay. It didn't make anything better. It didn't make anything worse. There's one item in the kitchen that needs to be red for our bottom rule, so it was already the wrong color, but it didn't make anything worse. So we say, meh, we're okay, I guess. On to round 5. So on to round 5, and we say, I'm thinking rooms that contain one or fewer objects must be painted red. I can either paint that red, but man, she just painted it green. I'd hate to undo that work. So instead, I decided to add a blue lamp to the kitchen, because now we don't care what color that kitchen is painted. We have 2 items in there. And not only does that help us meet that condition, but we don't have any green objects. The downstairs has 4 items and upstairs has 3, and the house has exactly 2 curios. We are fulfilled. So we say, hey, we're fulfilled. How do you feel about that? And they actually say they're happy. They like that change. They're not fulfilled, but they like the change. Okay, moving in the right direction. So player 2, the octopus decides, look, that painting in the bathroom, it's been causing issues all game. First it was blue, and then it was green, and now it's yellow, and I'm just gonna get rid of it. The octopus just said, just out of here. And that actually makes the octopus fulfilled. Our player 2 is like, yes, I'm happy again. And we say, we are not so happy. No, 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 no. Remember, now all of a sudden that violates our bottom rule. So on to round 6. Let's see what we can do about that. We've had some issues with the paintings. I don't want to mess with that. Our curios are all set. Everything's nice. I really have just one of 2 options. I can either add a lamp there, and then I don't care about the paint color of the room, or I could paint the room. And I decided I'm going to paint that bedroom red. Maybe that will make things work out. And I say, what do you think of that paint job in the bathroom? And by the way, I'm fulfilled again. Everything is met. And my partner here turns to me and says, you know what? I love that paint color in the room. I'm fulfilled too. We're both fulfilled and we won the game. Hooray! And what do new roommates do once they're settled in their new place? They invite their friends over for a party! Well, that was quite the party. Now let's take a look at what player 2 had for their conditions. They had also 4 conditions. The downstairs may not contain any curios. The house must contain no retro objects. I'll show how that came into play. The house must contain all 4 colors as objects and or paint color, and each specific object must appear in the house at most once. And they give an example, there cannot be 2 or more red lamps. Now they did say object and not paint color, so paint color could appear more than once, just objects couldn't be repeated. So how did those play out? Well, I think using the curios as an example shows how these conditions really interact. For the shark, the house must contain exactly 2 curios. But for the octopus, the downstairs may not have any curios. So the only way we could meet that and agree was to have these 2 blank and to have these 2 curios populated. And if you remember at the beginning, both of these had curios in them. So we're going to have to move those upstairs over the course of the game. But it goes a little beyond that. If you remember, the shark couldn't have any green objects, so these curios couldn't be green. And then player 2 had a few things in there. One is that there's no retro objects, and as it turns out, the yellow curio is a retro object. So she couldn't have yellow curios. And then each specific object must appear in the house at most once. The curios couldn't be the same color. So the only way we could do it was to have red and blue curios upstairs. And they could have been in the rooms like this, or they could have been swapped like that. Either way does meet the conditions listed on both cards. And that is true in most of the games, that there are multiple ways, multiple combinations that you can have that will satisfy the conditions on both players' cards. I think the easier games have more combinations that are winning final conditions, and the more difficult games not only have conditions that play off of each other with even more restrictions, but I think there's fewer overall winning conditions at the end. And that's how the demo is played. That's how a 2-player game is played. Let's go back to the table and I'll give you my final thoughts. And that's Decorum. How did you like that demo? I really do enjoy this game. I love the interaction between the players, how you add a piece or change a piece and just see how they come back at it. Now, according to the rules, you only have to say, I like that change, or I don't like that change, or meh, I can take it or leave it. But the real fun comes in if you get into the characters. Now, in the demo, they didn't give you any backstory for your characters, and in this campaign mode, each player has their own backstory that you get to share, and you can have some fun with that. So instead of saying just I don't like it, you can say like, oh my God, where did you find that piece of trash? And my mama told me that you might do something like this, and you just get into character and have fun. If that's not for you, you can still go back and say, I like it, I don't like it, meh, and that's perfectly fine. It's not going to change how the game plays. It'll just however your comfort level is and how goofy you're feeling for the day. The regular components are standard cardboard punch-out things, but we went ahead and upgraded to the acrylic pieces. We just love the feel of these acrylic pieces. So if that's any indication for how we feel about this game, I love this game. It wasn't even on my radar as something to look at, and I did the demo at Gen Con, and immediately my wife and I got into character and just had a blast. So bought the copy, bought the upgraded pieces right away. We've played it so many times since then. My only concern is the campaign. It's only 20 games for a 2-player. And there is the intention of the publisher to get a website available so you can generate new scenarios. Hopefully that is active soon. I would even support them coming out with an expansions or add-ons just with another set of a campaign mode for a 2-player game. I think the story that's involved in the campaign is going to be a little more interesting than just randomly generated scenarios on their website. But that's not going to stop me from playing those scenarios once they're active, because it really is a satisfying game to play when you sharing the information and when you have a good partner to play with. I really do. I'm really happy with getting this game at Gen Con and adding it to my collection. It'll be there for a long time. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that like button down below. If you have any questions, throw them in the comments. I'll see what I can answer for you. Until next time, I hope to see you around the table.
You rumskull.